Hey guys, as promised, we're going to have our guided practice for the SAR using the ACE method so that you guys can come to class ready tomorrow. The first thing we're going to do is really important that you put your name down there. So you're going to write your name, your period number, and then today's date. All right, now remember we talked about when we get our literary analysis, the first thing we're going to do is look at the prompt. The prompt is the bolded question that's below the passage. So you're going to look past the passage and you're going to go to the bolded question. In this case, it is from the author's description of the greasers. The reader can conclude that, and then it gives you space to use ACE, answer, cite evidence, and explain to create your response. So the first thing that you're going to do after you looked at your prompt, now you know what you're looking for. You're going to grab your highlighter and you're going to come back up to the passage and you're going to go through and highlight the things that stand out to you. So we're looking for what we can conclude about the greasers based on the author's description. So anyway, I went on walking home thinking about the movie and then suddenly wishing I had some company. Greasers can't walk alone too much or they'll get jumped, or someone will come by and scream, greaser. So there's something that we know. So the greasers can't walk alone too much or they'll get jumped, so they're not safe. So I'm just going to highlight that so that I can come back to that. And let's see, I don't want to change my text. I'm going to use the highlighter. Hold on a second. If you use Google Docs, here's a good little tip for you. So greasers can't walk along too much or they'll get jumped, or someone will come by and scream greaser at them, which doesn't make you feel too hot. So I'm going to just go ahead and highlight this as well, because we can see from here that people use the word greaser as something that's negative and that it's a put down, and it doesn't make them feel too hot. So I'm going to just go ahead and highlight this as well. We get jumped by the socials. I'm not sure how you spell it, but it's the abbreviation for the socials, the jet set, the West Side rich kids. So they get jumped. They get picked on by the socials. It sounds like they're like under the pecking order of the socials. So we'll go ahead and highlight that. I'm not sure how you spell it. Okay, it's like the term greaser, which is used to class all us boys on the east side. We're poorer than the socials in the middle class. So here's another detail that might characterize them, that might describe them and give us a conclusion. So they're poor compared to others, compared to even the middle class. So that tells us that in the class system that they're lower class, because you have your upper, your middle, and your lower. So we'll go ahead and highlight that. Go back to this color. I reckon we're wilder too. Oh, I like that. So they're wild guys, these greasers. So we can conclude something about that. So we'll go ahead and highlight that. Not like the socials who jump greasers and wreck houses and throw beer blasts for kicks and get editorials in the paper for being a public disgrace one day and an asset to society the next. Greasers are almost like hoods. We steal things and drive old souped-up cars and hold up gas stations and have a gang fight once in a while. Ooh, okay, so that tells me a few things too. So the greasers, they're almost like hoods, semicolon, so that tells me that these two thoughts are related, and it's because they steal things and they drive old souped-up cars and hold up gas stations and have gang fights once in a while. So what we're going to do is highlight that, because that's some important information about what's going on. So then he says, I don't mean I do things like that. And by the way, if you're not sure who's talking, it's the narrator of The Outsiders, which is Ponyboy. I don't mean I do things like that. Derry would kill me if I got into trouble with the police. Since Mom and Dad were killed in an auto wreck, the three of us get to stay together only as long as we behave. Ooh. So now we know that Mom and Dad were killed in an auto wreck. So that's important information about Ponyboy himself, but it's also showing us some kind of like a tender side to him. So that's interesting information to just kind of tuck away into our pocket. So since Mom and Dad were killed, the three of us get to stay together only as long as we behave. Now it sounds like they care about staying together. So family must be important to them. So that's an inference that I could make just from that information. So, oh, and there I did it again with my text color. So I'm going to go back and make my text black. So Soda and I stay out of trouble as much as we can, and we're careful not to get caught when we can't. So we might be able to say that they try to stay out of trouble, but they can't always. So sometimes they can't help themselves. Maybe the temptation is just too big, and maybe they just can't stop themselves from getting into trouble. So we're going to go ahead and highlight that with our yellow. All right, and I only mean that most greasers do things like that. Just like we wear our hair long and dress in blue jeans and t-shirts, or leave our shirt tails out and wear leather jackets and tennis shoes or boots. I'm not saying that either socias or greases are better. That's just the way that things are. So here we've heard some details. We've heard some details about the greasers that might be important. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that most greasers do things like that, so most greasers do those things to get in trouble. So I'll go ahead and highlight that in my blue. Go to highlight color and go to blue. So just like we wear our hair long and dress in blue jeans and t-shirts, leave our shirt tails out, and wear leather jackets and tennis shoes or boots. So those are some physical characteristics of our greasers. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight that as well. I'm not saying that socias or greases are better. That's just the way that things are. So things are just the way they are. It sounds like he's kind of settled into some sort of a societal norm. And he doesn't feel like he can ever change his plight in life. So from the author's description of the greasers, the reader can conclude, well, what are some things that we can conclude? And here is, remember we did that brainstorming today? So I'm going to go ahead and just open up a new doc and kind of go back over that brainstorming with you. So remember, what were those things that we highlighted? So we highlighted that they had long hair. We highlighted that they had leather jackets, that they care about their family. They're loyal. Remember, those brothers, they wanted to stay together. They have a hard time staying out of trouble. Okay, and I'm going to go over here and make this bigger so you can see it. So if you ever use Google Docs, here's a little trick for you. So you just go over to the percentage. So they have a hard time staying out of trouble. They do some kind of crazy things. I think I remember something about holding up gas stations, having gang fights, and they... what else did it say that they do? That they're wild. I remember he says he reckons that the greasers are wilder than the socias. So that's interesting. And it also says in here that they've got some problems that are kind of like everyday problems, these greasers do. Mom and Dad were killed in an auto wreck, and so this is specific to Ponyboy, but it does kind of translate into everybody's got their problems. So Mom and Dad were killed in an auto wreck, and the brothers are trying to stay together. So they're trying to be good so that they can stay together. So the brothers are trying to be good so that they can stay together. All right, so I'm going to finish that out, and then those clues are going to help us to come back to our original question. Of what can the reader conclude from the author's description of the greasers. So looking at that, one of the periods today came up with some good answers that I'm going to go ahead and just share with you, and I'll type those straight onto the page for you. So we can conclude, based on all those things, that the greasers may seem rough, but on the inside, they're just normal people with